So we have received quite a few good rains here over the last week. We received another good rain last night. And as you can see, once the Sonoran Desert starts to receive rain, we turn into a jungle real quick. As you can see, my entire landscape is green. The grass is exceedingly tall. I have some amaranth growing there. And so I am going to do a massive chop and drop fertilization of the entire property. This will typically take a few days, but I just wanted to take this time and to show you what you can do with the super scary, never have in your garden, avoid at all costs Bermuda grass, the dreaded Bermuda grass that I absolutely love to have here in the garden. Let me just show you how useful this grass is to have in the garden. As you can see on the Bermuda grass, look at all the dew that is on the grass. Anytime we get a really good rain, the grass collects the dew and it moistens the ground. A beautiful, beautiful sight to see. Grass makes an excellent animal fodder. I love to give grass clippings to both my chickens and my goats. It is very high in nitrogen and the animals absolutely love it. So what I will do is take a big heaping handful and I will throw it in with the chickens and goats. And that is just an excellent supplement, an excellent treat. They love to eat it, they love to pick through it and scratch it in. And so that is one way that I make use of grass clippings. They know I'm coming to bring them a treat. So the goats have all they can eat right now grazing in the back quarter acre, but they still love any treat that I come to give them. So I'll usually just dump out the full bag when I mow the grass and just give them plenty to chew on, but I'll just show you how much they love to eat the grass. And Bermuda grass is a specific grass that they turn into hay, and it is typically fed to goats and cows. So Bermuda is an excellent source of hay, and they just absolutely love to eat it. So I'll always make sure that when I mow my yard, I bring some clippings back to the goats. Right, Moses? That's right. All right, so here we are at my fertilization station. And so another great source for grass clippings is to use as fertilizer, organic fertilizer. So what we have here is some Korean natural farming Jadam. This batch is working on about 4 years old at this point. I continuously take from and add to with filtered water and food scraps. And so I always love to add just a little bit of grass clippings into the mix, or any weeds that I pull. Just makes an excellent bacteria-rich source for the concoction. And so I'll just give a couple good heaping handfuls into my Jadam. And once I've got the handfuls in, then I'll just go ahead with my little stir. And I'll just work it right into the mix, stirring it right in. Jadam is a bacteria and fungal making machine. It makes all kinds of microorganisms, and so it's a living fertilizer, and it promotes a living soil. So when you put this around your potted or in-ground plants or trees, it brings life into the soil, which ultimately is what makes for a better soil and for more fertilization for whatever you're trying to feed. So the more diversity, the better with Jadam. Here is some leaf mold or grass mold that I have been making. This is in a black trash bag, and this is a few months old at this point in time. And so I always love to make grass mold with the clippings. I'll put it into a trash bag, just make sure it's nice and moist, and then I'll do up the trash bag and put it into a shady location. Then I'll come back in a few months and I'll just check on it. This makes an absolutely great top dressing for fruit trees, garden beds, anywhere that you would typically put compost. So definitely make sure you at least use 1 bag of grass and make some grass mold from it. Let me open into this and see if it's ideal. All right, so here is the finished product. This was near the base of the bag, so it still has a ways to go. But as you can see, it's starting to turn nice and brown, starting to compost itself. And this is just going to be yet another bacteria-rich amendment. So anything bacteria-wise would be good for leafy greens, anything green, annuals, garden beds. So anything that's not a hard, woody material would definitely benefit from anything bacteria-rich. So this is grass mold. All right, and here is my compost container. I just have my compost in a trash can that I have holes drilled throughout. And so I will also go ahead and, especially when I start a compost, this one's almost done, so I won't add any into it. But your grass clippings, as long as they're not seeded, but to me, I really don't mind, even if they are seeded and they sprout, because I think that the grass is an excellent ground cover. And so I'm more or less a natural farmer. I just allow nature to do nature, and I just work with it. So I really don't mind any of the native plants or species coming up, even if they seed into the compost. But if you're clipping your grass, if you are concerned about weeds or native plants, just make sure they're not seeded. In this case, the grass is brand new, so there are no seeds. So it would be safe to add grass clippings to your compost as long as they're not seeded out. So I would typically put in a green and brown layer and continue with a compost if you so will. Here is a Royal Empress tree, a beautiful flowering tree that has excellent large leaves that can also be used as mulch. And so the mulch here tends to get brushed away by the rabbits. And so another benefit of grass would just be to use it as a straight mulch. So I'll go ahead and use the grass and put a nice mulch layer around this tree. And there we go. The tree is nicely mulched past the drip line. Nice thick mulch, probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches. So that'll definitely help retain any moisture and make the soil nice and acclimated to where it doesn't overheat or get chilled. In this case, in the summer, it'll just keep the soil nice and moist and cold or chilled. So it just acts as a nice insulator. Here's a small Chinese timber bamboo. And so he would absolutely love some bacteria-rich grass clippings as mulch. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit around him as well. And there we go. The bamboo is nicely mulched. And that will break down really quickly because it's a finely mulched grass. So that will start feeding this bamboo right away, especially with further rains. Other things that you can use grass clippings for, if you wanted to be really creative, you could make some fermented plant juice from grass clippings. And you could also just make a grass tea, an anaerobic or aerobic grass tea, just adding the grass into water and allowing it to steep for a few weeks to a few months will make an excellent organic fertilizer as well. Another area that you can use grass clippings for is throughout your landscape or in your garden. If you have any bare spots such as this, you could just go ahead and add some grass clippings as some mulch, and they will go ahead and cover any bare spots and help further vegetation to grow. And as you can see with the grass clippings on the bare spots, it will just act as an insulator, protect the soil from the sun, and bring in any microbes and life into the soil, and just help some vegetation to be able to take hold and put some sugars back into the soil. So it's an excellent way to start life in bare patches. And if you could put a few inches, all the better. One of the biggest ways that I utilize grass clippings via the mower is I just allow it to mulch without the bag. And so when I'm mowing, I will use the bag, maybe fill up 2 or 3 bags, and give the clippings and everything that I've shown you into this video. And then once I'm finished with that, I will just go ahead and mulch and just put all the grass clippings back onto the ground and just feed the entire ground, feed the entire soil. It's a big chop and drop. It's a big fertilization method, and it just replenishes nutrients back into the ground. And so I feed my entire soil network. The entire ground has a mycelium network throughout the entire ground. And so feeding the ground is just a net plus plus. And so that is my primary means of the Bermuda grass or any grass. It is a chop and drop. It is a fertilizer. It has a myriad of use. And don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of natural species, native species, ground covers, especially here in the desert. This is a friendly ground cover that we can use as a fertilization means, primarily, also as a fodder, and a primary source of sugars put into the soil. So when you go and you trim your grass and you mulch it back down, part of the root will also die back, and that will add soil into the ground. It will allow fodder for the worms and other life forms in the ground to feed on. And so it's just a plus plus. So definitely make use of your grass. Don't be afraid of natural species within your gardens. I've never had any negative impact. They do utilize nutrients, the native species such as grass, but when you chop and drop them and you turn them into fertilizer and put that back into the ground, it's a net plus. And you can also use them as mulch, as fodder, as I said, and all kinds of other uses. So that is Natural Farming 101. I am certainly glad that you stopped in to check out this video. Certainly glad that you checked out this channel. I hope each and every one of you has a blessed day today, and I hope you all have green thumbs, and may God bless you and your family. Take care.